Independent journalist Ken Klippenstein had a big scoop yesterday. Put up B1 here. This is from Ken's Substack, exclusive leaked messages from Charlie Kirk assassin. So Ken spoke with people in Tyler Robinson's social circle and was able to get access to multiple discords that Robinson has been in an effort to divine a little bit more about who this person is. This is one more scoop from Ken amid these FBI situations. Pretty impressive run, Ken. We're happy to have you here on Breaking Points. Thanks for joining us.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
And I noticed that you said you're willing to publish these and the mainstream media isn't. Sometimes you are. Other times, I think you're just getting stuff that the mainstream media doesn't even have yet. So they don't even get to suppress it before you're obtaining it and publishing it. So nice job on getting this stuff. Let's run through a little bit of it. So this is Zealous Monkey. That's Tyler's Discord handle in this Discord. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right. So he's saying. So this is the one where he kind of finally admits to this group. He's saying, "Hey guys, I have bad news for you all. It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all of this. I'm surrendering through a sheriff friend in a few moments. Thanks for all the good times and laughs. You've all been so amazing. Thank you all for everything." And before that, somebody had said Charlie Kirk got shot dead. I just saw the video. Holy S, R.A.P. I guess bro didn't deserve to go out like that. Sad. So talk a little bit about who you spoke to, what you can tell us about who you spoke to, and kind of what kind of person they understood Tyler to be.
Yeah, so I talked to 3 people who knew him. All of them were involved in different Discord channels. There wasn't just one. There were a bunch of them, just like how anyone uses social media, we use different channels. One of them knew him since childhood, and so he had a perspective on his development and growth and a kind of baseline for who he was, which I thought was interesting. But what was most surprising to me over the course of talking to these people was seeing those chats and thinking it was going to be like the sewer that Twitter is, and that it would be, a mix of different reactions. But from what was sent to me, it was all pretty measured and sympathetic. I thought there would be some, gloating or cheering about it. And I was surprised at the maturity of a lot of these young 20-something-year-old men. And I mean, you just read one example where they said, bro didn't deserve to go out like that. So it's like not necessarily people that, liked or disliked him. It was just seeing the humanity of it and having what I thought was a human response. And that is the exact opposite of how this entire thing has been portrayed by the major media since the shooting. I spent a lot of the weekend just pulling together clips of news, cable news channels saying that, the dangerous threat of these young men, extremists, and Discord channels. And that's just not what I found in the course of my reporting.
So tell us a little bit about some of the reflections you heard from people who knew him, because in the story there is some really interesting stuff. So one quote here: "Even the goodbye message he sent in one of our servers was so hard to believe. We all just thought, what a weird joke to make. Yeah, I don't know what makes a person like him decide he's going to drive 260 miles upstate to shoot someone like Charlie Kirk, then come back like nothing happened. It leaves a lot of room for speculation and theories, which is why I think they're so rampant." So Ken, from this, it sounds like a lot of people who were chatting with him in these servers and knew him for years, also, as we hear in many of these cases, were surprised that he would be capable of that level of evil.
Yeah, they were shocked and horrified. And I honestly, it's hard to report on a story like this and try to have the remove that you need to as a reporter and not have this response of these are really young men who are 23, 24. And you can imagine if someone you had known and been friendly with for years, you find this out about them. I mean, that's got to be really traumatic. And in addition to that, you have FBI Director Kash Patel saying, we're going to investigate everyone in these channels, which, some measure of investigation is warranted. But just this kind of assumption that you see ricocheting around on social media that, oh, they must have been in on it. Not only is that not true, it's kind of gross because it's like they're probably going through stuff just like anyone else who saw the shooting was. I mean, not just probably, they are. And I think it's really hard for them. And they're just kind of shocked. I think they're still processing it. And that surprised me because it wasn't the kind of nihilistic attitude that I think we're led to believe exists not just on the part of young men, but on these social media platforms in general, and about which there's all this hysteria and fear mongering about. I mean, they were way more thoughtful than I was at 22 or 23. Like, I hope I wouldn't approve of a horrible act like that. I don't think I would, but I can definitely find people who did on other social media platforms. So I was surprised by the depth of the response.
And one thing that wasn't terribly surprising me, but I think is worth mentioning, is that there's basically no conversation about national politics in here, which is important to, like, I'm not surprised by it, but just gauging the news coverage, you would suspect that these discords are just like hotbeds of, radical national political discussion. But in fact, not at all. You had them search and found it's found. You can put this one up here. One mention of Trump, which is, he says, an impeachment inquiry has been placed against Donald Trump. He could get booted out if they find he committed the S he's accused of, which is actually slightly naive, because Trump in 2019, this is the Ukraine thing, like the perfect phone call. He did do the thing he was accused of, and he did not get impeached. So 0 for 1 on his political analysis there. But then on election night in 2020, that is the only reference to Biden. Well, somebody asks Tyler, Zealous Monkey, who is winning the election, you would know, which is an interesting insight. It shows, like, and we understand this politically, that every social group has, like, the guy who follows politics. And that guy is actually pretty influential, because he then is the filter through which a lot of his friends then understand politics, which is why our show, for instance, I think is interesting, because, like, a lot of those people watch our show, they get their news from us, and then they share it with, or they read your Substack, then they share information with their social circle. So he responds accurately. Biden is in the lead electoral votes wise, but there's still some swing states that haven't finished voting, as well as most of the West Coast raw votes. Donald is in the lead by a little over 1 million votes. They ask him who is probably going to win. He says, I'm not sure. And they ask, when will we know? Not until pretty late, but we should have a pretty good idea by the end of the night, unless it's really close or something. Doesn't sound like he cares that much. Just kind of objective, like, FYI, guys. Like, this is what we'll know here. So that was all they could find when it came to the national politics. And then I want to ask you about this one post, the kind of goodbye post that's religious in nature. Somebody posted on here, hey, everyone, if you have not seen the news yet, Tyler's post above is true. He was taken into custody earlier today for the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Regardless of the horrible actions that took place, we must take this moment to remember that God is a living and loving God who loves all his children. God calls sinners to be his saints, and I ask that you all take a quiet moment to pray for Tyler and his repentance. While Charlie Kirk's politics were not acceptable to some, I ask that we all say a prayer for him and his family during these confusing times. Love you all. God bless. Now, I think some people have read that and said this is just cover so that folks in this Discord don't get brought under the cloud of suspicion themselves, which they're already under. I don't read it that way. That, to me, feels like earnest religiosity in a way that you can't fake. Emily would be better, actually. Emily, is that like that sounded pretty credible?
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
I couldn't make that up.
No.
Like, I couldn't put that together.
No.
Like, that's somebody who believes what he's saying there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so Ken, what did you take away from that and these other messages?
Yeah, so I didn't get into it in the story, but just in my conversation with people, what I was told is that it wasn't even that they're all religious. It was described to me as just a mix of different guys, and I was reminded of how differently politics is seen by people who are not obsessives like us, where it's like people can have different views, people can have different religious views, and it's not that big of a deal. And as was described to me, a lot of these guys knew each other in person. Another thing I wish I'd gone into in the story was that most of them were physical, like real IRL friends. These were not just random people on the internet. So these were people that knew each other pretty well. And again, as was described to me, they had a range of different views, and it just didn't sound like that big of a deal to them. And I think that's part of why this was so traumatic to them, because they clearly didn't understand the importance that Robinson had assigned in his mind. We now know from the text messages released, his views on his frankly hatred of Charlie Kirk's position on trans issues. I don't think that people really thought about that kind of stuff very much. And I really looked. I had my source go into the messages and I had him query certain things. And the returns were basically like the Trump example that we said. Oh, there was an election in 2020. Obviously, that's the day that everybody checks in for like 48 hours or whatever it is and has an opinion. And then they check out. And that's not unusual. I think that's actually probably how most of the country is.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of like occasionally, oh, I wonder what that is. And then you just go back to what it was you were doing. So again, I was just struck by how much like all of this stuff was just not on the radar of the people involved. And again, that is so different than the picture of this Discord group as some hotbed of radical ferment and just this snake pit of extremism. Just not true at all. These are just guys having fun.
Yeah, what are they? So you had them search for, I assume, LGBT, trans, gay, like what are they mostly talking about in these Discords?
Well, and Ken, like also kind of a question about that too. Like, who is in the Discords? How many people are in the Discords? Are they active all day? Like, what? Just give us a nature too of what you're able to ascertain about what was going on in the servers.
I would guess each one is somewhere in the dozens, because again, these were all like, these were all pretty close friends. This wasn't like just everybody jumps in. That's one thing that's distinct about Discord. They have individual servers. It's not Twitter where just everyone's on there all the time. These are people that know each other.
And did they know each other in IRL? Like, did they know each other from school mostly?
I don't know how exactly, but they all live in Utah. Some of them moved and kept in touch. But I would imagine school, because these guys are like 22, 23, 24. I mean, the exact group that the entire media had this performative thing about after the election, saying we've got to get more in touch with them and understand them. And then they go and call these guys basically terrorists for like the last 5 days. I mean, these news segments are crazy. I can't tell you how many former FBI agents I've seen on cable news saying we have to take seriously the threat of these young men, blah, 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 blah. And when so much so that, I was skeptical, but when I came into this, I thought I would find some of that. I found zero of that. Right. In these chat rooms. And I guess the counter would be maybe they're saying it off platform or whatever, but that's not the vibe that I get from these things, because it's just, they're easygoing. I posted some of the pictures. They're posting like, oh, I had to fix this thing in my house. Check this out. What do you think? Or like, really cold day today. Just kind of like normal stuff, regular stuff.
And so these don't remotely seem like Fuentes or Groyper types.
No, not at all. And I was frustrated by that too, because I saw it was almost like QAnon, where these liberals were just picking out these very specific and just reading all of this stuff into it. There's absolutely no evidence for that. There is evidence for that he cared strongly about LGBT issues, and I mentioned that towards the top of the story. And now from the text messages that have been released, we know that was a motivating factor in what Robinson did. But outside of that, I wasn't able to find very much.
Yeah, and Ken, you're doing this in the context of your reporting about law enforcement getting like tuned into the NVE category, and you've covered this, but I think that's the nonviolent or the nihilistic
violent extremism. Yeah,
right. So tell us a little bit, because I think this is important, and actually maybe even important to some folks on the right who are concerned about needlessly aggravating, angsty, angry, downtrodden young men, about how the government has started to categorize and potentially even surveil some people in those categories.
Yeah, I have many of the same concerns here, which is not that the two groups are similar at all. There's some ugly groups like Order of the Nine, real things that exist, and they do terrible things, no question about it. But when I read a lot of these things, I just think it's not a useful way to conceptualize the problem. People that don't care about anything, that don't. It's like there's a deep-seated rejection of participation in society, and stuff that's real there. But just saying that this is totally random and there's essentially no cause for it, I think that's a mistake. I think we should try to understand what's leading to this stuff. But anyways, that's a new designation that they created earlier this year. And I think the impression I get from people in Bureau is that it's a replacement for a category that they had before, which was called anti-government, anti-authority, violent extremists. So this is kind of under the Trump administration. This is the new conceptualization of the domestic, which is to say American threat. And so they're going to be focused on Americans. And again, I'm not saying that these groups weren't focused. The question is, do we want to conceptualize the problem as just random stuff just falling from the sky like a meteor, or do we want to try to understand like what is really going on here, or just prosecute crimes instead of obsessing about ideologies and things? I mean, the FBI has become so interested in in what people believe, and I see that as kind of distinct from the problem.
Yeah, so I think the one thing we can take from this is that Discord caught some unfair strays in this.
Oh, yeah.
This does not remotely seem to be the place where he was,
FBI's
quote,
queued up for this.
radicalized or anything else.
Yeah, during the Discord leaks, that was the platform where Jack Tertiera, the U.S. airman, disclosed all those classified records. So as a consequence of that, people in the intelligence community are really paranoid about this platform. And when you see on the cable news segments about it, they don't know what it is. It's evident that they think it's some kind of, I mean, it's basically WhatsApp for gaming. You can make phone calls, you can text, you can send pictures, that kind of thing. That's all it is. And there's this hysteria. And I really think there's like an ageist component to it, because a lot of these guys like Governor Cox of Utah who are, come out and say, oh, you need to log off, like leave the platforms or whatever. He's still using Facebook. He's still using YouTube. He's still using Twitter. And that's fine. I mean, it's good that he's trying to reach the public. But to act like this is some kind of alien, exotic thing, when the reality is it's just Gen Z WhatsApp, or probably not even that much anymore because it's become so popular. And then to exoticize it and pretend like it's some scary thing, it blows the whole thing out of proportion. It's just another platform. I don't see what the hysteria is. And I guess part of it is that they just don't understand what it is. Maybe the name is scary. Discord, oh my God, chaos.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the fact that the servers aren't, in a sense that like it's probably maybe healthier. I know it goes in both directions sometimes with Discord, but
I totally agree. It doesn't have an algorithm. It's
Right.
just a bunch of chat rooms basically, and so you decide who's in it. And to me, that's health. Like I agree with you. I think that's healthier. But to a lot of people, it's like, whoa, this is foreign. I thought it was like Twitter where everybody sees everything all the time.
Right. It feels like it's behind closed doors, which it is literally behind closed doors. But there's just something about that that feels different than the performative social media where it's all for public consumption, like global public consumption.
I totally agree.
And so maybe that's what's more suspect about it to people. I don't know. But Ken, this was a super interesting story. Thank you for your reporting and for joining us on the show.
Thanks so much, guys.
And where can people subscribe to the Substack?
I'm on KenKlippenstein.com.
KenKlippenstein.com.
All right, go check it out.
If you head over there, you see a big endorsement from Ryan Grimm, of all people.
That is true.
Heck, there you go. Well,
Not easy to get, guys.
that's right. It's precious. All right, see you, Ken.
Bye, guys.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.